Hello everyone and welcome to the live Q&A with me, Professor Michael Scott. It is the 5th of November. Remember the 5th of November. Happy bonfire night to you. Now I know those of you in the UK, we're all getting used to a second national lockdown, as indeed are many of you around the world in different countries. So I hope that you are all safe and well, and that you are getting used to the kind of new world that we are living in once again. Slightly different, but somewhat the same. Lockdown 2.0, as well as I'm sure we're also kind of all watching with increasing anticipation the long drawn out process of the American presidential election that's going on, while still all trying to, as well, at least in the UK, kind of, and in other places around the world, enjoy a little bit of bonfire night. So welcome. Thank you so much for taking a little bit of time here out on bonfire night to join me to have a think about the ancient world. And it's been a while since we've had a chance to do this, so there are huge amounts to catch up on, and thank you as always for your fantastic questions that have been coming in as always over the past couple of weeks. It's been a very busy past couple of weeks here for me with the university term at the University of Warwick, and the mix of face-to-face and online teaching that we're doing in response to the COVID situation, where we've been progressing through term. And also, as you might have been seeing from the Facebook page, it's been a very exciting couple of weeks for me, in the sense that we've launched a new institute at Warwick University, the Institute of Engagement, public engagement, engaging with the public, which I'm co-director of. So that's been a really exciting new project as well, taking off the ground. Alongside that, I think you may have seen on the Facebook page an announcement that kind of there's a new book coming that I'm just about to start writing. X marks the spot. It kind of hold your horses, because it won't be available to read until 2023, but I am writing it from now. So kind of and it's about amazing discoveries of the ancient world from across the ancient world, across the wide ancient, global ancient world that have been made over the last 200 years. So if you have suggestions, kind of the things you think should be included, do let us know through the Facebook page. I can't promise that they'll make it into this volume, as the discovery choices have already been made. I've been making my kind of key selection of things I want to talk about, but if we get a chance to write one after this, then you could be involved in helping to choose what goes into that. So do let us know your suggestions. Hope you guys have been well and been thriving as well over the past weeks. It's almost a month now since we've had a chance to do this. So a couple of things to flag for you also about the Facebook page that's been changing. So as you may have seen, Claire's been doing a fantastic job keeping us up to date. Notes and shops tabs, though, have been removed from the Facebook page. They're not working anymore on the Facebook page, and everything instead is now under the photos tab. So if you're looking for anything to do with the different kinds of work that I do and the different kinds of things, DVDs to get hold of, programs, etc., notes from previous Q&As, look under the photo tab. And that's the place to find it. And then, of course, my Christmas kind of tradition now in the November and December before Christmas time, what we do two things. One is we do the Professor Michael Scott calendar. Yes, this is the third year that this calendar's been running. It seems just like yesterday. And this is a calendar which I put together each year, a little desktop calendar. Now, normally it's got photos that I've taken in places that I love around the world that I wanted to share with you. So there's sort of photos taken by me in places around the world from the previous year of my travels, and then sharing them with you for the next year. But as with so many people, I haven't had that many travels around the world over the course of 2020, thanks to COVID. And so what we've done this year is a special calendar. We've sort of interspersed pictures of places, pictures that I've taken of places that I did get to around the world, and particularly the UK, over the course of this year, with some pictures of me from different eras over the last decade, which has been quite a frightening experience to look back over the last decade, particularly on different filming expeditions going back, and different places that I've worked going back. So you can get hold of this calendar and see a photo of me back looking very young and innocent back in 2009, before I started doing any TV work, and when I was a young postdoctoral research fellow as the Moses Finley Fellow at Darwin College in Cambridge. And by golly gosh, when I was looking back at the photos, I look younger, much younger. So do kind of that calendar is now now available to order on Amazon. Just search for Prof Michael Scott calendar, and it'd be absolutely fantastic if you're happy to order a copy of that, and also, of course, to tell your friends about it as well. And I can write any message you like and dedicate and sign the calendar as well. So just make sure you mention that when you're buying through Amazon. If you live in Australia, though, it won't work to buy it through Amazon, nor indeed through to Norway. I think it's because of the some kind of trade regulations, which I'm sure we'll have to get much more used to, given that Brexit is coming up on the 1st of January for us in the UK, and all our trade relationships are going to change. But if you live in Norway or if you live in Australia, apparently it won't work to order it through Amazon. So please do just email us direct at michaelscottacademic@gmail.com, and I will, with the calendar order, the dedications, etc., and then you'll get some details to pay through PayPal. And then we'll get the calendar out to you. But yes, very excitedly, they've gone off to, so far to, I think we've sent them to Czech Republic, to Australia, to the United States, to Norway, as well as to lots in the UK and other places. So do get in. They are kind of a limited supply. So don't leave it to the last minute to get it for Christmas. And do be careful also of last posting dates before Christmas, which are slightly earlier this year than usual because I think of COVID as well. The other thing that we do at Christmas, in the run up to Christmas, is a giveaway of books, of copies of books. So I get copies of books, of my books that have been published both in English and in foreign languages with different publishers around the world. And I'm very happy at Christmas to be able to share spare copies of those with you, which I'm very happy to do free of charge, save for the postage and packing to be able to get them to you. So you'll be able to see on the Facebook page, there is a sheet of the different languages that are available, the different books. So it's Ancient Worlds, Delphi, and indeed some from Democrats to Kings in languages like Spanish, German, Italian, Portuguese, and some English books as well, particularly focusing on an edited volume I did about the work of Moses Finley. So do get in touch. First come, first serve to order your book and to pay for the postage through PayPal. I'm very happy to sign and dedicate the book as well. So do just let me know what you want written in the book, but do get those orders in soon and I'll get them out in the post to you. Right. So calendar, 2021 calendar, photos taken by and of me, and then a book giveaway as well. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Right. Let's get on with some of your questions. Tracy Rabaiotti has been asking about ancient sites under modern buildings. Who has jurisdiction and ownership? Can you incorporate it into your house if you find a mosaic? Well, no. It depends very much, Tracy, on the country that you're living in, because every country has different rules about this kind of thing. And the process that has to be gone through. Now, if it's in your home, in your basement, certainly you don't have to have necessarily have your house bulldozed to make way for it. That did, of course, happen in the past with certain places like the Sanctuary of Delphi, when they moved an entire village that was over the top of the Delphi and moved the village and rebuilt it elsewhere so they could excavate the site. And you hear these wondrous stories before that happened of temple columns poking up through the basements of people's homes. But equally, sometimes what they will do is go in and do an excavation to see what's there. And then once they've documented it, they will fill that back in, and you're then mandated to leave it covered. That often happens if it's not just necessarily under a house, but actually it's part of your land, a property of land, that you might not want it open to the view and thus and to potential destruction. Or you can have it developed as part of your development. So this happened obviously very famously with the new Bloomberg building in the city of London, where in the basement of the Bloomberg building they found the remains of an ancient Roman Mithraeum, which has been brilliantly brought to life now as part of the planning of the Bloomberg building, as a public venue that tourists can visit. And it's an absolutely brilliant place to go to. I would recommend it highly, because they've done all sorts of evocative stuff with smells and sounds and the sorts of things, the experience it would have been going down to see it. So that's brilliantly worth doing if you can, and going to see that. So lots of different rules. No, you don't get to do it and incorporate it into your kitchen floor and have a nice Roman mosaic. But of course, depending on where you live, this happens more or less often. In Greece, certainly, people living in certain parts of Greece, and particularly in Athens, in modern Athens, the ancient city just kind of literally over the top of the modern city, over the top of the ancient, that can happen on a very regular basis. And of course, it's up to the owners to be responsible and report their fines. A school near where I work in Warwick was building a new building recently, and they, as part of that building project, literally when the people turned up with the diggers to dig up the ground to build the foundations, they uncovered a Roman villa underneath where they were planning to build their new building. So things had to stop, and actually they had to rethink the planning of the building to actually then incorporate this great new mosaic floor with a glass floor over the top of it, so that they could actually have it as part of their new school building, which I think is going to be absolutely fabulous, because then these children coming to school for generations to come will actually be able to realise that they are quite literally in the footsteps of many, many, many generations of people who have lived in the area before them. And I think the more we can do that, the more we can get a sense of kind of the places that people have walked before us and the different layers and levels of history that occupy the spaces in which we live. I think it gives us a very good context and sense of perspective for everything that we do on a daily basis. So Tracy, thank you very much for that question. But it is, of course, the 5th of November. It is bonfire night, and we need questions about fire. And given it was just Halloween, we're going to have a question about ghosts as well. So William Moulton has asked, here's our fire question. He wants to know about Hephaestus, the god of fire from ancient Greece. Now, Hephaestus is a very interesting character from amongst the ancient Greek gods. Now, he's supposedly the son of Zeus and Hera, but in the different sources, actually, sometimes he's just the son of Hera, who sort of, without any help, gave birth to him to get back at Zeus, who, of course, had given birth out of his head to another goddess. So Athena, who sort of sprung kind of from kind of his head. So in that sense, there's a bit of rivalry perhaps in Hephaestus, and as he grows up, he then also, the stories around him surround the fact that he may well have been lame, disabled, with it's described as a shriveled foot or kind of a lame leg in different sources. Now, this might have come about because he had it from birth, and he's chucked out of Mount Olympus by Hera because of it. Or, in other sources, he was perfectly fine, but he sort of fell foul of Hera and she chucked him out of Mount Olympus. And when he landed, he actually then did himself the accident that led to his permanent disability with the lame foot. And then in other sources, he's not lame at all. So it's one of these really interesting cases of depending on the different reflections of the god through the different sources as the stories are told about him over time. But he's one of the great blacksmiths. He makes the armour and weaponry and magical tools of the gods. He's also the god of fire, and he's the god of volcanoes. So this is a guy absolutely suited to bonfire night here. Now, kind of the things he created, Hermes' winged sandals, or one of the technological magnificent creations of Hephaestus. Achilles' armour that we hear about in the Iliad. He does a favour for Thetis, who was one of the people who was supposed to have raised him after he gets chucked out of Mount Olympus by Hera. He's tasked by Zeus with making Pandora as well, so he sort of turns his attentions to making a kind of human figure, for the figure of one. And it's from Hephaestus's hearth, from his fire, that Prometheus is said in some sources to have stolen fire and given it to mankind. And of course, Hephaestus is also responsible for making the thunderbolts, to help out Zeus, which are brilliantly depicted in, of course, my favourite film and your favourite film, Disney's Hercules, where he is hammering away at making the thunderbolts for Zeus. Now, alongside the fact that he's very much a kind of a working god, he does have quite a nice little courtship going on, because in many of the sources, he's actually together with Aphrodite. Your working blacksmith has landed the goddess of love, Aphrodite, as his partner. Well done, Hephaestus, in that sense. So this is really he's an absolutely fascinating character. And then in the different sources that are told about him and stories that are told about him, he appears in many as working as a blacksmith, or as a god of fire, god of volcanoes, god of craftsmanship. He's honoured by many craftsmen in the ancient Greek world. Had a massive temple to him just by the Agora in Athens. But kind of interestingly also, one of the main stories that is told about him, and this is one of the other things that's represented in vase painting, ancient Greek vase painting a lot, is when Dionysus, after he's been chucked out of Mount Olympus, and they're trying to get him back because he's sort of come up with a cunning ruse to cast Hera in a throne that she can't get out of. There's a bit of revenge on Hera. Gods did love having this kind of like revenge on one another for everything. Dionysus is sent along to trick him by getting him drunk. And so Dionysus, god of wine, gets Hephaestus drunk and then throws him, when he's so incapacitated with drink, throws him over the back of a donkey mule and leads him back up to Mount Olympus. And it's Hephaestus totally plastered on the back of a mule that is often represented on ancient Greek vase paintings as well. So there you go. That is our kind of fire story. Thank you, William, for your question. You wanted to hear about Hephaestus, and there you go. Hopefully that will kind of keep you interested. And then what about ghosts? So yes, we had a question from Leanne Wenban Price. We're in the seasons of all things spooky and otherworldly. Did the ancient Greeks and Romans believe in ghosts, spectres and ghouls? Yes, very much, Leanne, they did. Kind of one of my favourite stories about kind of ghosts for the ancient Greeks is that actually the ghouls of the dead, or the spirits of the dead, were very much something that you could actually get in touch with if you wanted to. Now, this was a dangerous thing to do because the spirits of the dead could be very much harmful as well as helpful. But actually, spirits of the dead were often consulted as special carriers of knowledge. So in the Greek world, if you wanted to find out about the future, you could go to an oracle and you could ask the gods. But if you were interested in finding out particular kinds of knowledge that was actually held by people when they were alive, but they'd taken it with them to their grave, then you could actually go to specialist sanctuaries where you got to consult dead spirits. Now, one of these was the cave of Trophonios, the oracle of Trophonios. Now, all of these points where you could access the dead and the spirits of the dead were always kind of near major underworld access points. So this one, my favourite place is near the River Acheron. And it was one of the first places I ever went to do some filming back in 2008, where we filmed in the kind of the Necromanteon, it's called, the Manteon, the oracular place of the Necron, the dead, kind of up on the River Acheron near the entrance to the underworld. And here we have a story back in Herodotus, the ancient Greek writer, who tells us about a chap called Periander of Corinth. Now, Periander had a wife who he called Melissa. Melissa died. But it transpired after she was dead that she knew something about a particular deposit that he was interested in, to do a sort of financial deposit. And only she knew the answer of where it was. So Periander immediately sent ambassadors to go and consult the dead spirit of Melissa at the oracle on the River Acheron. And when the ambassadors got there, and went through the process. It was quite a long-winded process to consult the dead. You sort of had to go underground, and you sort of potentially had to take a few sort of hallucinogenic beans to get you in the mood, and kind of, how this apparition of a ghost appeared. Well, some people say there was a sort of fake ghost on a pulley system going, woo! Others that there was really some kind of incantation of a spirit that you saw. Melissa's ghost appeared and she was in a bad mood. Oh yes, Melissa's ghost was not happy because she was in the underworld and she was cold and she didn't have any proper clothes. And this was because the clothes that she had been put in when she had been buried had not been burnt, and thus she could not make use of them in the underworld. Unless the stuff had been burnt, she couldn't access it. And so she was cold and she was fed up and she was tired. She wasn't going to answer Periander's question until he did something about it. Crucially, she also gives an indication that she really is the ghost of Melissa. This isn't any fake trickery. She says something to Periander's ambassadors that only Periander could possibly know is true. And this is where it gets a little weird. And if you're kind of got any young ones watching, you might want to sort of put your hands over the ears. Because supposedly, what she replies to the ambassadors is, I'll give you this proof that I am Melissa. I know that Periander put his loaves in a cold oven. And the ambassadors reported this back to Periander and said, well, apparently you'll know what this means. And so Herodotus retells the story. Periander did know exactly what this meant because he'd actually tried to have sex with the dead body of Melissa. He had to put his loaves in a cold oven. Anyway, so moving on swiftly, having this been proved that this was definitely Melissa's ghost, Periander came up with a cunning ruse to give her lots of clothes in the underworld. He invited all the women of Corinth to the temple to a great festival. He said, come in your finest gear to this festival. They all came to the temple, all the women of Corinth, and then he had them surrounded by guards. He made them all strip completely naked, sort of elite woman down to temple serving woman down to slave, and then I'm not quite sure, no one tells you in the story what happened to all these poor naked women, but he basically gathered up all of their clothes, all lovely clothes that they'd been wearing, and he burnt them all so that Melissa had an entire choice of outfits to enjoy in the underworld, and then went back again to the Oracle of the Dead up on the River Akron to ask about his original question, which was kind of where was this financial deposit thing, and she now, loving her clothing options in the underworld, was happy to oblige and let him know. So there you go. That is my favourite ghost story from the ancient Greek world. Slightly weird in places, but also a really good one. Husband and wife tale. Right, we need to interrupt our question answering to do a few of the what's in the news and what's coming up, because there's so much stuff that we've been collecting over the last week. I find this is absolutely extraordinary. Herculaneum, with the amazing finds, obviously, from the eruption of Vesuvius. They not only found a skeleton now, not only found a skull, but they've actually found preserved brain cells inside the remains of a young man killed at the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in Herculaneum. So they found neuronal structures in vitrified form. Who knows what we can do with these, but they've actually found brain cells. This is utterly extraordinary. Gal Gadot, many of you have been reacting to this, some positively, some not so positively, about Gal Gadot and Patty Jenkins to reteam on Cleopatra biopic for Paramount Pictures. So the Wonder Woman duo will be coming back to take on the role of Cleopatra, made famous obviously by Elizabeth Taylor once upon a time, and perhaps even more importantly by Carry On Cleo. Infamy, they've all got it. Infamy, as Kenneth Williams did say. Let's hopefully Gal Gadot can come up with at least as good a line as that. The 2,000-year-old cat that's been discovered in Peru, not a vitrified cat, but the Nazca lines and outline of a cat, a massive cat as part of it in the Nazca Desert in Peru, 2,000 years old, the cat figure's only just been noticed. Absolutely love it. There's been an enormous cat on the ground and no one's noticed up to now. Equally, there's been an exceptionally large Roman building discovered in Switzerland. This is not just the dimensions, but actually the construction techniques have never been seen before in the region. So it really is an absolute breakthrough. It's sort of got mortar walls, 9 meters wide, 3rd to 5th centuries AD. So absolutely fantastic to find out more about that when we can. Roman woman's trendy earring has been unearthed in Bulgaria as well. They found a very nice first century, part of a 1st century AD colony. There's been a nice gold set of earrings discovered in what was a room in a public bath over in Bulgaria. And the earrings actually very interestingly match the design that you see of Roman women's earrings that are painted onto the sort of wooden faces of mummy portraits. That was quite a style thing to do. You sort of had a wooden board over the top of your coffin, which actually had a painted vision of you dressed up, looking very nice. And it's really interesting that there seems to be some it's a realistic portrait, or it gives the sense that these portraits of the dead were more realistic than perhaps we've been thinking, because we're actually discovering earrings and jewellery of exactly the same forms as is then being incorporated into the pictures. And then this is very close to my heart. They've just started the Cycladic effort of antiquities in Greece, has started a 5-year fieldwork program on the island of Reni. Now, Reni, you will never have heard of Reni. It is I suspect, it is a tiny island just off the coast of Delos. Now, Delos, as we all know, was a very important ancient settlement, an ancient sanctuary site, the birthplace of Apollo and Artemis, an incredibly important sanctuary site all the way through to sort of 1st century BC, 1st century AD. And you can visit it today, one of the best sites to stay in Greece, but you can't stay there overnight. Anyway, you couldn't die or really live permanently on Delos even in antiquity, and Reni, the next door little island, was actually the place that you did both of those things. And particularly what I love about Delos is that they had a sanctuary for Asclepius. So if you were ill, you went there and hopefully got cured by the god. But if it looked like you were going to snuff it and you weren't going to be saved, you couldn't die on Delos because Delos was a purified island. So if they basically lost hope, you got shoved off into a boat and you got rowed across a little stretch of water to Reni, where you then got to die on Reni and be buried on Reni. So we have cemeteries on Reni for people who were living and working around the Delos region in antiquity, as well as structures for people living there. So it really is the kind of day-to-day counterpart to the extraordinary religious superstructure of the island of Delos. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what's coming out of Reni from that project. We've talked about the 2021 calendar of what's kind of new and what's going on. So do get your calendar orders in soon. I'm also, I forgot to mention, editing a book with BBC Books about the story of the ancient world. So that should be coming out in 2022, hopefully before that. The talk I did for Classics for All about Roman DIY is available on YouTube for you to see. And also a couple of good things to flag. BBC Radio 4, we've got Greg Jonah doing Hilarious Histories. What's so funny about the past? That's a brilliant one. History Hack podcast, Emma Southern's talking about the Romans and murder. Do check out LJ Trafford's How to Survive in Ancient Rome, which is a new book coming out. It's just out. Asking questions like, if you got ill, where did you go to in ancient Rome? What happened if you got mugged in the street? Kind of all the things you need to know if you were to be teleported any moment into ancient Rome. Do check out as well a new book coming out by Stephen Fry. He's retelling Troy in his own unique style. And you may have been catching this, I've been quite addicted to it so far, the new Netflix series of barbarians of the Romans taking on the Germanic tribes after the Battle of Teutoburg Forest. That's brilliant. And there's a new podcast as well with Tom Holland coming out and Dominic Sandbrook. The rest is history. And also on Netflix coming up soon, it's going to be a documentary, The Secrets of the Saqqara Tomb, the fantastic excavations in Egypt that have been going on. So tons and tons to get involved with, and kind of so much that we kind of haven't got a chance to cover it all now, but lots of notices will be going up on the Facebook page as well. I completely agree with you, Fiona. I doubt I'd last 5 minutes in ancient Rome either, to be perfectly honest. So we've got time for just a question or two before we run out of our half hour. Catherine Nancy from Australia, you said, when we're able to travel again, where do you suggest for a 2-week holiday in the UK? You're in Australia and you want to come to the UK? I think there's a lot of people who would rather go in the opposite direction here. The holiday should take in ancient sites, places, great and quirky museums, a castle or two, and a bit of fun. My God, Catherine, you haven't got too many requirements, have you? Right, people, we're calling Facebook to arms here. Can you help Catherine out to plan her holiday to the UK when people can travel again? So let's have your suggestions into the Facebook page or email them into michaelscottacademic@gmail.com. Where would you suggest Catherine goes in the UK? Where are the best places in the UK? Take in the ancient sites, some great and quirky museums. Ooh, what's your favourite quirky museum in the UK? A castle or two, and a little bit of fun all at the same time. Right, those are your marching orders. What are the suggestions? Let kind of it all come through. And let's have your great ideas. Ancient sites and places. Well, I think you have to go to Bath. If you haven't been to Bath as well, to the Roman Baths, I think that's an absolutely essential thing to visit. And then to take you out to Wales, go to Caerleon as well in Wales. Absolutely brilliant ancient site. And I think one of the best, quirkiest museums around. Alexis is on my side with the Roman Baths at Bath. And then across to Wales for a castle or two. There we go. We're in kind of mindset here. Alexis, brilliant. Anna's St Albans, Verulamium, absolutely. Vindolanda up on Hadrian Hadrian's Wall would be another absolute classic. Christine, you just come in. Christina with a Vindelander as well. Absolutely, some great suggestions already coming in, Catherine. We'll get your holiday sorted if nothing else. And kind of Tom Scott has been asking about Greco-Bactria. We will answer those questions next time. There's actually been quite a few of you asking about Greco-Bactria recently, so we'll do that on the next time. And Michaela Villela has been asking about in which ancient society was it better to be born as a woman? Well, Sparta is one of the places in the ancient Greek world, at least, you definitely would want to be born if you were a woman. You got the chance to be educated, to actually take a role in the running of the city while the men were off fighting all the time, to own property and actually kind of be a woman in your own right with your own financial resources. So I would vote for Sparta, Michaela, absolutely. And kind of we have a question from Sarah Scotty. You've been enjoying Channel 4's Cockendamop Bake Off. And if kind of you're asking about what Roman bakery item could you bake, and perhaps they should have a Roman ancient baking themed bake-off week. I think they should. It would go a lot better than the ice cream dessert week, ice cream kind of pudding surprise week this week that they were filming kind of in all the, or kind of they were showing, which they'd recorded back in the summer, kind of in all the full heat. The summer kind of no one does well in any kind of ice cream week, I fear, on Bake Off. So we should have an ancient themed Roman Bake Off. Perhaps we could work out from those vitrified loaves of bread from Pompeii and Herculaneum what the recipe for a best piece of Roman bread would be. That would be quite a good one for Bake Off, or some kind of dormouse pie or something like that. Kind of absolutely fantastic. So Sarah, thank you for that indeed. So many great questions, so much left to answer, and yet our time is up. So kind of we will come back next time, not too long now, 2 weeks, 19th of November, 5 p.m. So 19th of November, 5 p.m. will be the next Q&A. Very much looking forward to seeing you then. In the meantime, stay safe through the lockdown in the UK and in different parts of the world as well. Do remember kind of the book giveaway. Get your orders in for the book giveaway before they run out, as they are very limited, and of course the 2021 calendar as well. Do get ordering that. And it has been great news to finish on. Thank you to your efforts, and thank you also to the fabulous Claire helping me run the Facebook page, that we have finally been able to merge the Facebook pages. So this is absolutely fabulous. We are all on one now. Happy page. So thank you so much indeed for your help in making that possible. Thank you to you all. Stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you on the 19th of November. Take care.